Hello, I'm Keenan Williams, and we are the best of friends for the next few minutes as we look deeper into ourselves with a view from the outside. This is the KW Media Social Impact Podcast, the social distancing series. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is what I'm going to be speaking about today, and it is very difficult for many people to forgive and forget. It might be a little easier for some people to forgive, but it's definitely difficult to forget. Today I'm going to be focusing on forgiveness and getting us to an understanding and getting you to an understanding that forgiveness isn't just a way of you unshackling those chains and getting somebody else to live their best lives. It is basically for you to unshackle those chains and for you to live your best life, to move on past the pain of the past and to live in a brighter future and to deal with the demons of the past. It is difficult. I know that it is. There might have been people or a person in your life who might have harmed you or hurt you in a certain way, broken you physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually as well. But it's something that you need to go through. It's a process that I'm willing to help you with for the next few minutes as you listen to this podcast, where you will be able to forgive if you find it within yourself that you are in a space where you'd like to let go and say, okay, I would like to live a better life tomorrow. I don't want to hold on to this pain any longer because it's holding me back. It's preventing me from fulfilling my dreams and aspirations, going after the goals that I've set out for myself. It's just making life a whole lot more difficult because I'm not letting go of the pain of the past. So today, it's all about letting go and it's all about forgiveness. And I'm going to speak to you about a process that helped me because I mentioned in the previous podcast of how I used to be bullied back at school. And I did mention to you that as we meet on a regular occurrence during this Social Impact Podcast, the social distancing series, we are going to look a little bit more into aspects of forgiveness, digging deeper within ourselves. But I'm also going to share a little bit about who I am and how I got to a state of me accepting myself and also loving myself. So in the previous podcast, I spoke about the masks we hide behind. And today I'm going to talk about forgiveness. Because when I was bullied at school, I was bullied by individuals. It wasn't just that the walls of the school would just all of a sudden, as I'd walk into a classroom, the wall would start speaking and saying, Keenan, you're stupid, you're a failure, you won't amount to anything in life. It was my peers, it was people who I'd encountered along my path growing up in my teens. People I've met, people who I befriended, who stabbed me in the back, who broke me spiritually, physically, psychologically, emotionally. And I needed to forgive those people in order for myself and in order for me to move on and to get into a state where I am right now and where I'm able to speak to you in my own voice. So, as I mentioned, it's not about unshackling those chains and letting the other person live their best life. It's more about you unshackling those chains and for you to live your best life. And for you to live in a brighter future, you need to do it for yourself. So I did a little bit of a recap on what the previous podcast was all about. It was about removing those masks. It's about you spending some time with yourself in front of the mirror. I hope that process for you was great. I hope that it went well. I tried this process out at many schools that I've worked across the Western Cape, throughout South Africa. Many, many young people have tried it out, and many people and adults have tried it out to share with you a story of a couple of years ago. I worked at one of the schools here on the Cape Flats in the Western Cape of South Africa. And there was one of these learners, and he was very, 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 very quiet with one of the sessions we were running at the school. So we would go to the school once a week. He was very quiet, he was very shy, and we introduced this method, which I explained in the previous podcast, of you standing in front of the mirror for a minimum of 30 minutes a day and just speaking to yourself and talking about how your day's been, what you've been doing, your dreams and aspirations, and just speaking positivity into your life as well. and then also speaking about the pain and talking about the hurt and the torment that you might have gone through in the past. And we sent the learners home, and Abdul was very, very quiet. He was very shy at first, and we sent them home to try out this activity. And when we got back a week later, 7 days later, we got back to the school. I remember it was a Tuesday, and Abdul had verbal diarrhea. He was just speaking to everybody. He was greeting everybody. He was talking to the girls who apparently he was very shy of speaking to, and he made a few new friends as well. And Abdul's experience was that experience and that moment and opportunity of him getting to know himself again, speak to himself, get to know how he looks when he speaks, speaking to himself in front of the mirror, just made him more confident, and he became this person who was now all confident and standing in front of the class and doing presentations. And it's just a story of hope, and it's a story that I hope that you're going to go through as well, because Abdul, a couple of years later, Abdul was in grade 9 at the time we were working with him. A couple of years later, he was in grade 11, and he was in the debating team of the school, and just great things happening to Abdul. And I believe that he was also deputy head boy at his particular school. So great things will come to you if you just get to know yourself. As I mentioned yesterday when I was speaking to you, that it is wisdom to get to know other people, but it is enlightenment to get to know yourself. And as you get to know yourself, you'll also be able to understand that the pain that you had experienced in the past, the hurt that you had experienced, it's not your fault. Someone else was hurting themselves, and all they knew was hurt, and that's why they portrayed and perpetuated hurt into your own life. So I want you to move on with confidence and understand that it wasn't your fault that you had experienced what you had experienced, that you need to let go. And today is a talk that I'd like to do for you, and talking about letting go and forgiving. And I know it is really difficult to forgive, but it is a process which will help you. This process I'd like to share with you is very simple, it's very basic, but it can be very traumatizing for many people, because it can open up old wounds, and it can also open up emotions that you might have suppressed for a very, very long time, but it is needed for you to be able to go through this process. It's a process which was explained to me, and it was explained to many people in the organization I worked with, and it's a process I hope that you are able to do as well. So for this, you're not going to need the mirror. I hope that you're going to carry on with this process and this experience of standing in front of the mirror for the next 30 days. Remember, 30 minutes for 30 days, that's the prerequisite. That's the minimum. You can go well beyond that. I do it very often, stand in front of the mirror, still speak to myself as mad as what I am, and also just speak positivity into my own life. But for this one today, talking about forgiveness, you're going to need a pen and a piece of paper. After this podcast, I'd like you to, if you have the time, if you don't have the time, then a little bit later today, I'd like you just to quiet yourself down. I want you to sit down with yourself. So you have your time, your 30 minutes in front of the mirror. Just spend some time with yourself, with your thoughts, with your thought processes, and with that pen and piece of paper. And I want you just to write. And I want you to write a letter to the person or to the people who might have hurt you in the past. So if it's people, you might need more than one piece of paper. If it's just one person, I'm sure that one piece of paper will suffice, unless what you want to write is going to be very long. So try to have a couple of pages handy, just laying about, because you might make a mistake here and there. So as you're writing this letter, I want you to write a letter to the person or the people who might have hurt you in the past. So I want you to dig deep. I want you to dig into the past, and I want you to write the letter to the person or the people who might have hurt you. I want you to pour out your heart. I want you to write the letter as though you are writing it to them, and write about how what they did to you hurt you, how what they did to you held you back from fulfilling your dreams and your goals that you set out for yourself, how what they did to you prevented you and stopped you from being yourself and being your full and truest self. So write that letter. Just pour your heart out and let the emotions just come out. You can shout, you can just swear, you can do what you want to in that letter. That's your letter that you are writing to that person or those people who have maybe done something wrong to you in the past. And when you're done with that letter, I want you to read through it. It's going to be an emotional experience for you. It's going to be a traumatic experience for many other people. Just write it, and I want you to go through those emotions. And as you're going through those emotions, I want you just to let it all out. I want you to let go of that pain. And that letter that you address to whoever hurt you, I want you to take that letter, and I want you to tear it up. Piece by piece. Take out all your emotions, all your anger, all your frustration, all the emotion that you have locked up and bottled up within yourself. I want you just to tear up the pieces I want you to tear up that letter. I want you to tear up every piece of the paper, and I want you to discard of it, because those are the emotions which had been bottled up within you for so long. For many people, it's bottled up for many years. For many people, it's bottled up for decades. So I want you to let those emotions out, and I want you just to write it down on that piece of paper. Even though you're going to tear it up, I want you to make like you are really pouring your heart out to this person. Let out your frustrations. Let out your anger within yourself. Just let it out. And as you tear up the piece of paper, let go of the pain of the past. Forgive the person. You don't have to physically go and forgive that person, but I want you to forgive that person, because by forgiving that person, they're not going to live their best lives. You're going to begin a process of you living your best life. So it's all about you. It's all about a process that you're going to go through. It's all about doing it for yourself and dealing with the demons head on. And going and saying, I'm letting go of the past and I'm looking at a brighter future, because this is my life and I'm going to live my life to the best of my ability. And I can't do that by holding on to the grudges and the pain of the past, of the people hurting me, the people who have done this to me or have said that to me, who have made me feel this way. I'm going to let go and I'm going to live my life. But I won't be able to do that unless I forgive that person. So emotionally within yourself, psychologically within yourself, you forgive that person. You don't have to physically tell the person, hey John, hey Peter, hey Sally, hey Susan, I forgive you for what you've done. You forgive that person within yourself for you to be able to move on. So tomorrow, we are going to meet again, and I'm going to be speaking about surrounding yourself with people who believe in you. So do this process, carry on with the mirror activity, and do this process of just letting out what you had experienced, and write that letter to the person or the people who might have hurt you in the past. Write that letter and just let out all the emotions. Tomorrow, we're talking about surrounding yourself with people who believe in you. If you have any comments, if you have any thoughts, if you have any questions you'd like to send me a message, you can do that by all means. You can just go to my website. It's kwmedia.life. All our information's there. You can connect with the team if you'd like to. You can give me a call. My number's there. You can send us a WhatsApp. You can also send us a email if you'd like to. There's also some feedback forms on the website, and there's some other things that you might be interested in listening to as well. So from myself, Keenan Williams, keep rocking SA. Bye-bye.